So there really is no reason to comply with the left's unconstitutional rules and mandates. Why should we? When they don't comply either. We have busted Nancy Pelosi making at least $30 billion off her husband's stock endeavors, stocks that succeeded thanks to Pelosi's power as Speaker of the House, influencing which big tech legislation made it to the House floor, and in many cases, even more importantly, which did not. Remember, it's Pelosi who squashed efforts to rein in big tech, all the while her family owns stock in those companies. It's hypocritical. Listen to her defend the Stock Act in 2012, a law that bars Congress from trading on inside info.
It's very important that the House and the Senate meet to discuss these very important issues. To remove all doubt in the public's mind, if that is possible, that we are here to do the people's business and not to benefit personally from it.
That was back in 2012. And she only took that stance after a massive book came out, basically calling into question every member of Congress in their stock trades. It's all a performance right there. Even this weekend, after all the backlash from her stock scheming and her husband's investments, Nancy Pelosi now claims she wants to tighten penalties on members' quote, unacceptable noncompliance, she says. Well, it's true, over 52 members of Congress recently failed to report their requirements as called out by law with stock trades. The standard penalty for that, you ready for this? A whopping $200. $200. Some congressional trades are worth millions. The whole thing's offensive, really. The whole Congress is making a move on all of us. Nancy is just one member of Washington's elite ruling class who are all getting rich off the power of their positions. So look at what the Pelosi family did with Google. Her husband bought 4,000 shares in the parent company, Alphabet. And you know how much the Pelosi's made from that? $5.3 million? That's how much they made, $5.3 million. Good thing she squashed legislation that could have hurt Google. All of it should make you sick. Well, joining me now is investigative reporter who's done a deep dive into the corruption of Washington, D.C., author of the best-selling book, Compromised: How Money and Politics Drive FBI Corruption. Probably could have talked to about the last segment as well. Seamus BRUNER is here. Great to have you on the program, sir. What do you make of Nancy Pelosi and her family stock trades?
It's unconscionable. It's totally corrupt. And honestly, this Google deal reminds me, this Alphabet investment really reminds me of the Visa investment that Nancy Pelosi made back in 2008. It's a pretty shocking series of events. And so Visa, which became one of the largest IPOs in history, the shares were not actually available to the public. They were available just to institutional investors. Well, somehow, we don't know how, Paul Pelosi was able to make very early trades in Visa, buy up some of those IPO shares, and within days, their investment had doubled. Now, it gets more suspicious than that because Nancy Pelosi at the time, and still seems to be, antitrust talk. Well, the House Judiciary Committee was working on antitrust legislation that would regulate the credit card companies' very suspicious fee structures. It was very opaque. Well, Nancy Pelosi had been a huge antitrust hawk for years, all of a sudden goes quiet on the credit card companies. Why? Her husband has all of these shares in Visa. Well, within 2 years, those shares had surged 200%. What is Nancy Pelosi doing in the meantime? Not bringing legislation to the House floor for a vote that would have regulated these companies like Visa. It's the exact same thing you see now with the Google trades. She's not bringing the legislation from the House Judiciary Committee that has broad bipartisan support.
Well, Seamus, explain to me, this gets around the Stock Act because you're not allowed to trade on inside information. The way it seems like she's been able to profit is not by the inside information, but to setting up the system so it either doesn't fail or it succeeds, not so much the information, but her actions as someone who really can control legislation.
Well, that's absolutely correct. And it's worse than insider trading. This is a very clear conflict of interest, which is why you have Democratic lawmakers like AOC and Mark Kelly and John Ossoff saying that this should absolutely be forbidden. There's bipartisan support. There's broad public support. I think just 5% of voters think that Congress members should be allowed to trade individual stocks. They really need to put this into a blind trust so that they don't know which companies they can benefit with their legislation or lack thereof.
Here's what's amazing to me, Seamus. There's legislation offered up in the House that has 15 co-sponsors. 10 of them are Democrats, 5 of them Republicans. 15 members of Congress? That's it? That's who's sponsoring legislation like this that would bar some of this activity. That should tell you all you need to know, shouldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And when they say 55 members violated the Stock Act, they're saying that they didn't disclose the trades in a timely fashion. They can disclose the trades, but who's going and following up and seeing if these companies that these House and senators are investing in, who's following up to see if legislation later affects those companies? I mean, there's very little oversight on this.
Well, hopefully somebody like you is, because the mainstream media certainly isn't. Certainly, hopefully, outlets like Newsmax is, because nobody else is going to do it if we don't. Yeah,
that's absolutely right. I mean, with insider trading, I mean, in the public sector and in private companies, it's really very hard to prove insider trading exists. You usually don't get the text messages or the emails that say, you should buy shares in this company. The way that they do it, prosecutors that is that you look at the timing of these trades. Well, you look at the Google, the Alphabet trade. That was a well-timed trade. Yeah. You look at more recently at this Tesla call options, which, by the way, call options are a very aggressive and bullish form of investment. It's not just like putting money into Google or Alphabet. You are betting that these companies are going to go a certain way. Yeah. And so when they put money into Tesla, Nancy Pelosi is working on the Biden infrastructure plan, which was proposed to give $174 billion to electric vehicle manufacturers. Tesla's shares jump on that. So they're affecting the share prices with the legislation, and they know which way it's going to go.
Yeah. And every American out there should be offended. And honestly, this is not just a Democrat Nancy Pelosi problem. This is a problem with everybody from both sides of the aisle. We now have a ruling class of elite politicians that are more concerned about their own hide than there are about ours. Seamus Bruner, I appreciate the work you do on this issue. Please keep us posted on anything new.
Thanks, Grant.
You got it, my man. All right, folks, Democrats milking MLK Day. You believe this? Instead of honoring Dr. King, we'll show you exactly what they did to the holiday we're all supposed to get behind, but not them, I guess.